Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome to Flash Tutorials. This is the UI series and this is the third episode of the UI series, and today we're going to talk about the buttons. Now let's just go ahead and open up Unity. There you go. But first what we're going to do is we're going to create a new scene so that we can start fresh. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a UI and create a panel. Now you can go ahead and create a button, but I'm going to create a panel just so that it looks nice and clear. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a panel. There you go. I'm going to select the panel and I'm going to again right click, create a UI, and I'm going to create a button. Now this we're going to set by selecting the panel, you can directly set the button a child of the panel. Oh, sorry. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead into the scene, and there you go. This is your button. Now if you go ahead and run the scene and you hover over, you're gonna notice that your button is changing colors and interacting with your cursor and all that. Okay, now if you select the button and look up in the inspector panel, you're gonna notice that you've got a couple of components here. We already talked about what is a rect transform. The canvas render, we haven't talked about it, and I'm gonna take all these small little things in the last episode of the UI series, so we'll talk about this later. Image script is basically a UI image object, so we're going to talk about this later also, but the only thing that it does in a button is sets the normal state for the button. Now what I mean by that is if you go ahead and look up over here, you're going to notice that it is already selected the default UI for the button that is provided by the Unity. Now I'm going to show you a couple of things over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and import my own button that I created in GIMP. So there you go. This is a texture. I'm just going to drag it right here, and this is imported as a texture. So I'm just going to go ahead and change it to Sprite 2D and UI. It is not a single sprite. There are multiple sprites that I'm going to use, so I'm going to select multiple. I'm going to click on the sprite editor in order to slice all these images because they are not separated yet. So I'm just going to click on slice, and Unity will automatically slice all these images for us. Now click on apply to save the changes, and now you can see I got 4 images. Okay. So if I go back to Unity and if I wanted to use some other texture as my button, so what I wanted to do is I wanted to select I have to select any of these textures or any of the texture that you like. Okay, it could be any of the textures of your choice. So I'm just going to drag this texture on the normal state. This will going to change my button to something else, to the texture that I provided it. Now if I go back and try to test it, you're going to see that it is interacting just as same as it was before, except the texture is changed. Okay, so that's all the use of image script in the button. Now we're going to talk about image script in my later videos, not right now, but that's all it does in a button component, a button element. Okay, so let's talk about the button script. Now what it does. The first variable, or whatever you want to call it, the first variable that you see is intractable. If you set it to false, you're going to disable the button. What I mean by that is if you're going to go ahead and play, you're going to notice that your button is disabled by Unity. Toggling intractable will enable or disable the button. So if I click on intractable, it's going to make my button intractable to my mouse or user. Okay, transition. There are a couple of transitions. If you set it to none, there will be no transition. You will notice that you won't be able to interact with the button, but still, if you click on it, the click will be recorded, and if there is any event set with the click, it will gonna run normally. But there will be no visual interactions with the cursor. Second is color tint. Now this is the default one, so you can have any type of colors you want for your texture to have. Now these are the states that a button goes through when the mouse is hovered over, clicked, or it is not being hovered over, it is on normal state. Okay, so if you go on normal color, you can change it to whatever you want. It could be anything. Okay, if I set it to red color, let's say I'm going to select everything to red color, and we click on play, and you'll notice that it became red. It is not that really noticeable, but it's still, I'm getting all those effects, so I'm just going to enable it. There you go. You can see. Okay. You can have any sort of color you want. It doesn't really matter. You can have any kind of colors, like this. This is just very weird set of colors. Okay. Click on play and test it out. You notice? Okay. So that's what a color tint transition state does. It just changes the color depending on the state of the button. The next variable that you see is color multiplier. Now, okay, so let's talk about the color multiplier. What it does is it multiplies the alpha value if it is not completely set to 0 or set to the highest number, which is 255. Set to 0 or 1. If we're going to multiply every state by the number that color multiplier has. Now what I mean by that is I'm going to show you an example, and what I'm going to go ahead and set every value to something different. Let's just, okay, I just messed up, so I'm just going to go ahead and create a new button. I'm going to right click UI panel, create a new button, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have I'm going to set every alpha value to some. I'm going to set the first value to complete alpha. So the normal state should be completely wiped out. There you go. It's completely wiped out. Now I'm going to go ahead and set the highlighted color to almost alpha. Now this will gonna show you the effect that I was talking about. So if I go here and hover over, you're gonna notice that the texture on highlighted, the alpha value on a highlighted color is being changed. Now if I increase the color multiplier, it's gonna multiply the highlighted color, the alpha value of highlighted color, to the color multiplier value, which is 3.39. So it will gonna be more bright this time, and if I set it to full, it will be more bright. Okay, so that's what I mean by that. It applies for every state, so you can go ahead and check that out. Fade duration. What is fade duration? Okay, so let's talk about that. I'm just gonna go ahead, first one right here, this one right here, and if I play it, okay, so now it is back to normal. Okay, if I go ahead and, okay, let's talk about the fade duration. What is fade duration, what it does, what is function? Fade duration is the time delay between the transitions. So it means that the time it takes between normal color to change to highlighted color when being highlighted depends on the fade duration variable. So if I change this variable, if I make this value to 0, it will gonna instantly change to the color. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that, and you can see that. There you go. You can see that it is instantly changing. Now if I increase the fade duration value, you're gonna notice that it is slowly changing to its own to the color. So it increases or decreases the duration of transition between the colors. So that's what fade duration does. Okay, now we're going to talk about the navigation in a bit, and but first let's talk about these all transition states. Now let's talk about sprite swap. Now this transition state does what it says. It swaps the sprite according to the state of the button. So what I mean by that is I'm going to assign all these textures that I imported, that I created in game, that I imported, applied to these, assigned to these all the states. So if I go ahead and apply the target graphic to be, the highlighted sprite to be the first button, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put this right here, disabled, and the normal state. Now normal state is not going to be over here. Normal state is going to be on the source image, which is on image script. Okay, and the target graphic is the image. Okay, so it is the image component. So it is basically this component. It could you can get another image component and create another image component by right clicking UI and image, and it will work just as fine as this one. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and play, and I'm going to show you the effect. Okay, so if I go ahead and hover over, it's going to change to the highlighted sprite. If I press it, it's going to change it to the pressed one, which is the third one. If I toggle the intractable and set it to false, it's going to disable the button, which we're going to use this sprite. Okay, so this was the sprite swap. Now let's talk about the animation. This is the most exciting one that you would find in a button. Okay, so let's talk about the animation transition state. They're already names of these states assigned, so you don't really have to change that, but if you want, you can. All you gotta do is in order to use the animation, you're gonna want to have the I'm sorry, I gotta sneeze. Okay, okay. So you're gonna want to have an animator component and an animation controller assigned to it. So Unity does all the work for you. So all you gotta do is gonna create click on auto generate animation, and it will gonna assign all these state and add the component for you, so you don't have to worry about that. So I'm just gonna click on it and go to anims, and I'm gonna save this button animation controller. There you go, easy as that. Now if you wanted to use this animation component, what you wanted to do is you know what I'm gonna do, because I don't know. Okay, so all you gotta do is create some animations for it in order to use. So I'm gonna go ahead and create some animations for it, and it's gonna be pretty easy. All you gotta do is go ahead and click on window, animation, and you got your animation window right here. Okay, now if you go back to animator, I'm going to go back to scene, and if you have created the animation controller, which is the button, you're going to select that, and you're going to go back to animator component, and you got your states right here. Okay, now animator is attached to the button, so you're going to want to select the button and open up the animation window, which you can go ahead and click on window, animation, and we're going to open up this window. And you're going to want to notice that there are some states already assigned, so all you got to do is create animations for that. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the game view in order to create these animations. So in order to create an animation for a state, all you got to do is select first state, then click on this record button. This is going to start the recording of your animation. So for the normal state, what I wanted to do is set it simple. I'm not going to do anything with it, but for the highlighted view, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some animation, some weird animation. Okay, so I'm going to add a curve for rect transform and size delta. There you go. Now I'm gonna want to create this looping animation. So I'm just going to select this and I'm going to put it a bit closer. And we go over here. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to change the width a bit and the height. Okay, so it's going to be like this when I highlight it. Okay, so it's going to be good. For the press state, what I wanted to do is I'm going to add a curve for rect transform and for the size delta, and I'm not gonna create a looping animation. I'm just gonna make the button smaller in order to look like it is being pressed or being hurt, something like that. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and squeeze it up. So it's gonna be like that. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording, and that's it. Now let's test it out. All you gotta do is click on play, and you got your button. Now, if I highlight it, you're gonna notice that it is started playing the animation that I created. And if I press it, you're gonna make the button smaller. You can have any kind of animation assigned to them. It will work just as fine, so don't have to worry about that. Okay, now if you already have created a button and you wanted to just assign the animations to that, if you already created the animation controller and just wanted to assign those animations to a new button, all you gotta do is create a new button. I'm just gonna go ahead and create UI, a new button, and I'm gonna just move this button just a bit over here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and create animator components. So I'm just gonna go animator. There you go. Now you're gonna want to assign an animation controller. So I'm gonna grab the button that I have created, the button animation controller, and assign to that. Okay. Now if I go over here, I should have it. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, you're gonna want to change this to color tint to animation, and now it will work. There you go. Same animations, and I created them only once. Okay, so that's all about the transition states. Now, if you go down, you're gonna notice that there is one more thing. It's called navigation. Now, what is this? It is basically just a way to navigate to the buttons in the buttons using your keyboard. So what I mean by that is we're going to talk about the navigation later in detail, but for now I'm just going to show you what I mean by that. Okay, so if you go ahead and into the scene, you're going to notice that there is some arrows showing up. Now, what are these arrows mean? I mean, I don't know what they mean. Now, the navigation assigned to automatic, if I set it to horizontal, means if I'm only using horizontal axis, which is left and right keys on my keyboard, or A and D keys on my keyboard. So if these arrows are not showing up, you're gonna want to click on this visualize button. This will gonna visualize the arrows. And what these arrows mean is you can go ahead and use your keyboard and use the axis keys, which are WASD, and the arrow keys to control the buttons or the UI elements. So what I mean by that is I'm going to go over here. I'm not going to hover the mouse over any of these things. I'm just going to go ahead and use my keyboard. So I'm just going to go ahead, and you can see I can use any of these buttons without without moving my mouse. Okay. So that's what it means. Now, if you use vertical, you can only use it on a vertical axis. So if I go ahead and choose it, I cannot use horizontal keys. You can also set it to automatic. This will gonna set. This will gonna use them. This will gonna assign horizontal and vertical based on their position by Unity. So if I go ahead and do that, you can see I can toggle them with both because both of them are being visualized right here. Okay, so that's all for the navigation. Now there's one more type, which are called the pressed states or the on-click events. Now these are called when you click on any of these buttons. So if I go ahead and create a state for it. Now, in order to create a list or a state, you're going to want to click on this plus icon. You're going to create the state, and you're going to notice that it's set all runtime only and off. Now, I know for a fact that if you set it to off, it will gonna just turn it off. And yeah, so if you go ahead and this column suggests you to have a game object assigned to it. Now you can go ahead and I'm gonna drag the same button that is there, so I can go ahead into the next box, and you can see that there are a couple of elements are being showing up. Now these are all the components assigned to this game object, and you can go ahead and trigger any of these functions from these components. Now, it is always good to create your own scripts, your own functions, in order to trigger an event or a scene, or if you want to transition to other scene. It is always good to create your own script. So I'm going to go ahead and click and create a new script. I'm going to name it change. This is going to change the scene. Okay, so I'm going to double click on it, and it's going to open up in MonoDevelop. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and create a new function. I'm going to call it change the scene. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and go application dot load, and I'm going to set an integer to 1. So we're going to load the first scene in the build settings. Now the build settings are currently empty, so I'm just going to save the scenes. I'm going to go test. Okay, and once you save it, you're going to go ahead and click on build settings, add current, and I'm going to add the canvas and workspace scene. There you go. So when I run that function, it will going to run this. We're gonna load the canvas and workspace scene. Okay. Now what you're gonna want to do is drag this script and assign it to the button. And I'm not talking about this button, so I'm just gonna delete it so that you don't have any confusion. Okay, so we have this change the script assigned to this button. Now if I go ahead and check on all the functions, you're going to notice that I have a new component called change, and there should be a function called change the scene. So I'm going to click that, and you're going to see that if I click on this button now, it's going to load that scene. So if I click on it, it's going to load this scene that you already saw in the first video, which was the canvas video. Okay, so if I go back and click on the button, and if I create a parameter in that function, now there can only be one parameter or no parameters. So if I go ahead and create a new parameter, sorry, I'm going to go ahead and go level, and integer level. There you go. So if I go ahead and go over here, you're going to notice that I have a field now. I should have a field now. Okay, so if I go ahead and now I have a parameter to assign. Now if I go ahead and create, I'm going to set it to 1, so it's still going to load the same scene. But you can have any kind of value over there. There are a couple of more data types that you can use as a parameters. I guess there are almost all of them. So I'm going to test it as a boolean. So I'm going to go test. I'm going to set to boolean, and it's still going to be 1, so that doesn't give me any error. And you're going to see that it turns the parameter box to a radio button. So if I go over here and select change the scene boolean, you can see it changes into the radio button. So that's it for the button script. I guess I have covered everything. There's nothing left, I guess. Okay, so if I forgot anything, please let me know. I'll tell you guys. There's one more thing I want to tell you is if you look at the child of the button, you're gonna notice that this is a text text UI element. Now it is not necessary to have a text UI element. You can go ahead and delete that. You can also go ahead and create an image and assign some other element to it. So assign some another what I'm trying to say, assign some another sprite to it, so it will gonna give you a more decent look. Where does the arrow go? There you go. I'm gonna change it to sprite. Apply. And I'm gonna put it here. And you now have a sprite image as instead of a text, so you can use that also. Now I guess I've covered everything for the button. If I forgot anything, please let me know. If you have any questions or problems, please post it on my Facebook page or post it in the comment section down below. I hope so that you liked this series so far. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next episode of the UI series. Till then, goodbye. Yeah.